today we'll be kind of surveying on power graphs and super power graphs, which will be my main focus for the later part. Okay, so when we say power graphs, it is people always think like we are going to talk about powers of graphs, which arises from random walks or powers of adjacency matrices. It is not the case. Okay, so this is a collection of graphs which are defined based on the algebraic properties. So when we talk about algebraic structures or properties, the representation of algebraic structures using graphs is nothing new, as we have been seeing already. Like Cayley graphs are one of the most famous graph structures, which carries over with the algebraic structures, right? And it was proposed in late 1800s, so almost 150 years we are being exposed to utilizing algebraic structure as a baseline for graphs. And we try, I mean, usually the interplay is to study the properties of graphs from algebraic perspective, or study the group or rings properties through graph combinatorial properties. So here again, this collection of graphs is what our focus will be, the power graphs and super power graphs. So for today, I'll kind of give a brief about power graphs, proper power graphs, spectrum of power graphs, and also super power graphs. So that is where we will talk about some recent unpublished work which are, which we have communicated recently. Okay, so let us begin now. Power graphs. So as I was saying already, this is a very recent concept when compared to Cayley graphs. So this was introduced in 2000 by Kellerau and Quinn, where they proposed this study of power graphs, where when we see power graphs, we mean like given a group. Okay, the definition, formal definition goes this way: given a group G, we define a digraph or a directed graph with vertex set G, vertex set as the group elements, and for any two elements in G, we connect it through an edge or directed edge in the power graph, if and only if, say A to B, if we are trying to connect, then A power K should be equal to B, or that B can be written as some power of A in G. So with this definition, there were lots of studies on digraphs, and lots of properties have been revealed using power graphs, which I will not touch upon for this talk, because there is already a survey which was written by Abwajay and others. It came out in 2013. So in that survey paper, they have dealt with lots of properties of directed power graphs as well as undirected, but our focus for today will be on the undirected part. So how can we extend this directed power graph to an undirected power graph concept? It is, if you see in the directed case, it is one way where you write B as a power of A. So in the undirected version, if we try to see the underlying undirected version, we try to extend this and say that if you can write either A as a power of B or B as a power of A, okay, and of course B not equal to A for two distinct elements, if you can write one as a power of the other, then there is an edge connecting the two elements. Okay, so this is the definition of the undirected power graph. And with this definition, lots of properties have been explored since 2009, and a lot of papers have come out in this. Like kind of 50% was covered in 2013. So in 2013 survey, they covered a lot of properties such as Eulerianness or Hamiltonicity or complete power graphs, properties of complete power graphs, and they have given a very nice, beautiful survey in this topic. Okay. And they have also collected information about counting the number of edges that are possible, or chromatic number, click numbers, and the concept of planarity or isomorphism between power graphs, how the interplay goes. Okay, so all these kind of properties have been already studied for power graphs, for directed power graphs, and these are collected in the survey article by Abwajay, which came in 2013. Okay. So, but our motivation today, we'll try to stick to the connectedness and another interesting part for me, which is the spectral properties. So, we'll talk about the spectral properties of power graphs and also about the connectedness or connectivity of power graphs. So, to even before we continue here, we want to talk about how this looks like if you want to structurally visualize a group as a graph, especially a power graph. How will it look like? Okay, so for this, we introduce, I mean, this is a concept of join, where join is like it exists in our graph theory literature, where given a graph a labeled graph on say P vertices, then a join of say some P graphs is denoted by this G of H1, H2, HP, and the A join of a set of graphs HA is the graph H with vertex and edge set given by this. So you replace every vertex of A actually by the graph HI, and correspondingly the edges are joined. So by join, what we mean is there is a complete join. That is, if they are adjacent in the original graph. So if we take two vertices xy, vertices are represented by pairs, where x is in v of a and y is in v of gx. Sorry, it should be hx. Okay, so xy, x prime, y prime is nothing but either xx prime is an edge, then you connect those edges, or if within the particular x, within the particular set, if x is equal to x prime, then you join all those vertices which are already connected in the hx. Okay, so this gx should be hx, or h1, h2, hp. Okay, so with this definition in our mind, the usual join of graphs, suppose we talk about cyclic groups. Okay, so some standard groups we'll cover also some as some examples. Suppose Zn is the cyclic group on n vertices, then the corresponding power graph of it is going to look like this, where you have the Euler phi function phi of n. So that will be playing a role in throughout our talk. And of course, whenever we talk about cyclic groups and any group for that matter, we are going to talk about Euler phi function. So you have a complete graph of phi n plus 1 vertices on phi n plus 1 vertices. That is joined again with this delta n of, we have again k of phi d1, d2, dt vertices. So we have t complete graphs, each of size phi of d1, phi of d2, phi of dt, where these di's are nothing but the non-trivial divisors of n. Okay, and so the vertex set, this delta n is going to be nothing but the representation of the form where every vertex is, say you label the vertex by di, the divisors of n. Okay, the non-trivial divisors, neither 1 nor n. Okay, and two vertices are joined in this if either di divides dj or dj divides di. Okay, in either form, we just use this notation here. So there are different underlying graph. As you change this delta n, you may get a different kind of structure, but the idea is we are using this join concept here. Right. So in other words, if you simply see this, if suppose n is a prime number, for simple condition, if we start with n as a prime number, then this part, the delta n part, is going to be empty for us. And so we'll only have a complete graph on n vertices. So when n is a prime, the prime number, then the power graph of Zn is nothing but the complete graph on n vertices. Okay, so that's a simple structure we could see. Similarly, if we talk about dihedral groups, okay, so dihedral groups are nothing but vertices, sets with elements a comma b, where a power n is equal to b square. I mean, a power n is identity or b square is identity, right? B is of order 2 and a is of order n, along with the condition BAB is equal to a inverse, right? So it contains 2n elements in this set, and if we look at the power graph of this dihedral group, okay, so it is going to be nothing but union of the power graph of Zn, the underlying Zn we have, and n copies of K2, and where all these n copies and Zn, they all share this identity element. That is, they are all connected through this identity element. Okay, so this also brings out our interesting point, which we'll be talking later. So if you look at an identity element of any group given to us, okay, in the corresponding power graph, if you see, you can always see that the identity element can be written as power of every element, right? A power 0 we can write for every A in the group. So in that sense, you will see that the identity element is always going to be connected to every other element in the given group. Okay. So this is a point that I'm putting forth before this. And another interesting group is the elementary abelian group. As we have known, Professor Tamilchelvam is known for his work in groups or rings and connecting them to graph theory. So he, along with Satanathan, has proved that for elementary abelian group, okay, so if elementary abelian group is a group of order p power n for some prime number p and for any positive integer n, the corresponding power graph is going to be nothing but it's going to be isomorphic to k1 plus union of all these kp minus 1. Okay. So you take L copies of P minus 1 and all of these L copies are going to be connected to through this one element, which will be the identity. Okay. So what is this L? The L is nothing but the number P power n minus 1 by P minus 1. Okay. So the proof involves, as you can see, a detailed structural property. So we'll not do any proof today. Okay. So you just remember these properties. We'll use them again when we go back and talk about some results in power graphs. Okay. So power graph is also like you can see that it is connected for any group G. Why? Because of the identity element. Identity element is going to connect every other element. So minimal connectedness is guaranteed for power graph, right? And the degree of identity is going to be whatever is the number of elements in the group minus 1. So we can immediately also conclude about the distance property that the power graph has diameter 1. Okay, and this is, I mean, diameter 1 or 2 it will be. Okay, so because identity element is connected to every other element in the group, so diameter could be 2, maximum 2, at most 2, but it is 1 if and only if our group G is a cyclic P group. It's a very, very specific proof that we are talking about. So diameter of power graph in general is 2, okay, for any group. Okay. So it is not really interesting for us to talk about when we are having a diameter 2 graph. So we are kind of confined to not to move out of this. So next comes what can we talk about, what will be the effect on connectivity properties if we remove this particular identity element, right? Identity, we have been looking at it, it is going to connect every other element in the group. But can we say something about the graph, the graph when we delete this identity element? Okay, once you delete it, will the remaining graph be connected? Or it is not going to be connected? If it is not connected, then how many components will be there? So these kind of questions arise naturally. Okay, so to deal this, we'll introduce this graph, which we'll call it as proper power graph, where it is nothing but the power graph with deleted identity element. Okay, so you just delete the identity element and remove all the adjacent edges, so incident edges on identity. So whatever remaining graph we have, that is what we will be denoting by P naught of G, or the proper power graph. Okay. So now if we want to talk about connectivity, so as we have seen, if we look at P cyclic group, so what do we know? We know that P cyclic group has diameter 1, right? And it is connected, right? So diameter 1 means it's a complete graph. That's what we are talking about. So if you delete it, again, the remaining graph is going to be connected and it is going to be complete, right? So what can we say about other graphs? Are there any other kind of structures that we could connect from here? So in 2014, Mohadam Far and Rahbarian computed some properties of proper power graphs. Okay, so to begin with, let pi of G, let us denote by pi of G the set of all prime numbers P, okay, such that G has an element of order P. Okay, if G, the group has an element of order P, then you pick up that P and put it in our set pi of G. Okay, and pi E of G is just the elementary set. For every element, whatever is the order, you collect them and store it as pi E of G. But our interest will be on pi of G as well as pi E of G. As you can see, the results will come. Okay, so what is their results? So in their paper in 2014, they proved that suppose G is a finite group, and if order of G is some power of prime, okay, P power alpha for some prime P and for some positive integer alpha, then P naught of G is going to be connected. Okay, if and only if G has a unique minimal subgroup. Okay. So similarly, they also proved that P naught of G is going to be connected if and only if G is either cyclic or it is either a generalized quaternion group. Okay. So, and also another interesting result is that if the set pi, okay, if you look at this Z of G is nothing but the center of the group. Okay, in the group, if you look at the center of the group, then pi of Z of G, if you collect the elements of, I mean, the order of the elements in this center of the group, then if there are at least 2 primes in that set, okay, then your P naught of G is going to be connected. Okay, so these are some interesting properties. So another interesting one is that if your pi of G itself, okay, if the collection of prime numbers for G is itself contain at least 2 prime numbers, and the center of the group G is a P group in itself. If the center is itself a P group, for some P coming from this pi of G, then P naught of G will be connected if and only if every other element outside of this center, if you look at every non-central element A of order P, okay, there exists a non-P element B such that A is going to be adjacent to B. So in P naught of G. So these are some interesting results that we have. So what are the other ways we could prove this connectedness in proper power graph is that if we want to talk about connectedness in proper power graph, it is also equivalent if we talk about power graph and if you try to see when the power graph is going to be 2 connected. Okay. So if your given power graph is 2 connected, then obviously deleting one edge, one identity element may result in your graph being connected or 2 connected also. But at least we can talk about connectedness if power graph is 2 connected, right? So this raised to the question of can we characterize simple groups, okay, by power graphs, okay, and they pose this question because every time we are talking about cyclic group or abelian groups come into picture. So does there exist a non-abelian simple group which is 2 connected, okay, which has whose corresponding power graph is 2 connected? Okay, so this question was again raised, and this was also, I mean, people also proved that this is not going to be true always. So Bubuloni and Dustabadi, if you see, they have proposed independently different counter examples, but we'll be interested in this example, which also raised to further research in this direction. Okay, so if you look at this collection, A is nothing but the union of these 5 sets that we are having here, where P is nothing but the set of all prime numbers, and P plus 1 is going to be the set of all elements of the form prime plus 1. Okay, so all the integers of this form P plus 1 form, and P plus 2 is again of the same form, where you look at all the elements of the form P plus 2, and also 2P is nothing but 2P. If P is a prime, we are talking about 2P or 2P plus 1. Okay, so if you look at A as this set, okay, then Dustabadi and Farokhi gave this counter example. If you look at the alternating group, okay, on n elements, where n is going to be either 3 or not an element of A, okay, only then the given power graph will be 2 connected. Okay, so to say in other words, if you choose any element from A here, any integer from A, and if you look at the corresponding alternating group AN and its power graph of AN, then it is not going to be 2 connected. Okay, so any element from the set A is going to give us a counter example for the question posed above. So now comes the question of, is it that only this is the only possible counter example? Because they both came up with similar kind of examples based on alternating group. So is it the only example that is available? So this raised again, I mean, this made Akbari and others raise the question, they modified the question and they posed it as a conjecture, stating that the power graph of non-abelian simple group G is 2 connected if and only if G is isomorphic to the alternating group AN, okay, where N is either 3 or N does not belong to the set A, which we just stated, right? That is, N is not of the form a prime or prime plus 1 or prime plus 2 or 2p or 2p plus 1. Okay. Excuse me. So in the same paper, they also proved this conjecture, but of course it is difficult to prove for every simple group, so every non-abelian simple group. So instead, they considered special graphs, special groups, and for those groups, the corresponding proper power graph was studied, and they showed that for these groups also, they are the corresponding proper power graph becomes disconnected, or that there are power graphs which are not too connected, right? So, for example, like proper power graph of sporadic groups, a regroup of the form 2F4P or 2G2P, or the Chevalier groups of the form A1P, A2P, B2P, F4P, and the projective unitary group U3P, or the projective symplectic group group S4P. These are all the proper power graphs of these groups are all disconnected. Okay, so that tells us that there are more graphs in this collection. So there are some more special graphs which we can try to show here. Okay. So what about distances? So we can talk about connectedness like this. Actually, see, I'm just giving a glimpse of what kind of results are there in this topic, because the topic is vast again, and there are so many results connecting each and every possible subgroup, special groups, and whatever we could do analyze on. Okay, but here I'm just giving a glimpse of it, and we are coming up with a survey paper which we have communicated already, so where we have covered exclusively and extensively all the possible properties on power graphs, proper power graphs. So with that in mind, we'll move to the next concept, which is the distances in power graphs, so or proper power graphs. Okay. So as we have just seen that not every proper power graph is connected, right? We have talked about lots of other examples, but even a simple group, dihedral group, if you look at it, its proper power graph is not going to be connected, right? Because as we said, it is already union of power graph of Zn and n copies of K2, where they're all connected by this identity element only. So once you remove the identity element, the proper power graph is going to become disconnected. Right. So if we have a connected proper power graph, what can we say about the diameter of this proper power graph? Okay, how far could it go? Okay, so that is the next question we want to talk about based on distances. So in 2015, Curtin et al., they also proved the following result, where if you're talking about shortest distance in P naught, okay, between any two distinct non-adjacent vertices, then if you take two elements of prime order, then their distance has to be even. Okay, the shortest distance between any two elements which are not adjacent and are of order prime. Okay, two prime order elements you take which are not adjacent, their shortest path distance has to be even. Okay, so with this comes the next question, like what will happen if my proper group is the question is now the other way around. Suppose I know the distance or diameter of a proper power graph, for which kind of groups this will happen. Okay, so suppose that P naught of G has diameter at most 3, say. Okay, we are talking about proper power graphs now. Okay, so then the silo subgroup of this particular group should be cyclic group, or again it should be a generalized quaternion 2 groups. Okay, so the proofs are going to be involved, as you can see. Okay, so we have said about this is again a condition on when the proper power graph is having diameter at most 3. So what about at most 2? Okay, so P naught of G has diameter at most 2. If and only if, so now see here we are talking about a characterization where necessary and sufficient condition is given if G is nilpotent and all of its silo subgroups are subcyclic or generalized quaternion 2 groups. Okay, so this tells us that in this case again both P of G as well as P naught of G should have the same diameter. Okay, so from the previous result, this we have a one-way result on diameter at most 3, and we have a characterization for diameter at most 2. So combining these two, we can see that if P naught of G has diameter 3, then G cannot be a nilpotent group. Okay. So this is a kind of a corollary we can derive from these results. Okay. And this also gives us another interesting fact that if P naught of G has diameter at most 3, okay, and then if you look at the individual elements of this group with prime order, okay, then with respect to the group operation, they commute. Okay, if we talk about A star B, then it will also mean that it's equal to B star A. Okay, that particular pairs. Okay, so keeping this in mind, if we are talking about non-abelian simple group, okay, then what can we say about that? There is some pair at least which is not going to be commuting with each other. So that will imply that the proper power graph of such a group, non-abelian simple group, should have diameter at least 4. Okay, so this is a kind of a lower bound we are giving for non-abelian simple group. Okay. So P naught of G has to have diameter at least 4 here. Okay, so once we talk about diameter, there is also other connection here where we want to talk about Eulerianness. That is, can you find a cycle connecting, touching all the edges of the graph? So in the same paper, I mean, all these results come from the same paper of Curtin et al. Okay, so they also proved that in addition that P naught will be Eulerian if and only if G is again cyclic 2 group or a generalized quaternion 2 group. Okay. So these are some results again just to get a glimpse of how proper power graph is going to look like. Excuse me. So next, we want to talk about our favorite topic of spectral graph theory. So that means what we want to talk about power graphs and their spectral properties. What about the adjacency spectrum or Laplacian spectrum or any other possible spectrum? Okay. So first we'll begin with the Laplacian spectrum. Why? Because Laplacian spectrum was studied before the adjacency spectrum for power graphs especially. So if you see in 2015, Chattopadhyay and Panigrahi ma'am, they both studied this properties of Laplacian spectrum of power graphs, especially for the cyclic group Zn and the dihedral group D2n. Okay, and as you can see, as we go through the results, you will see the complexity that it was not immediate. You cannot declare for all n possible. So the study was on case by case analysis of particular collection of n's or particular values of n. Okay, so for each positive integer n, okay, suppose you look at the generators of Zn. Okay, here we are talking about any generic n. So in general, if we talk about Zn, let Gi bar, as we know Zn is nothing but the modulo n group. If you talk about it, you can write it as 0 bar, 1 bar, 2 bar and so on. So we'll use the same notation here. We'll use Gi bar. Okay, let Gi bar be the generator of Zn. Okay, for I is equal to 1, 2 and so on until phi of n. Right. So if we look at the characteristic polynomial of the Laplacian of the power graph of Zn, okay, L of P of Zn. So we'll denote the characteristic polynomial by theta, and on the variable a, if you take, okay, then the corresponding Laplacian can be given by this expression, okay, where this on the right side you are writing it as a characteristic polynomial of the principal submatrix of L, the Laplacian matrix, where you are deleting those rows and columns corresponding to the generators G1 bar, G2 bar, and so on. Okay. And this is one interesting value that we have. So from here, if you just simply see here, if I choose n to be a prime number here, right? If n is a prime, then what we will have is all gi bar will be nothing but all the elements from 0 to 1, n minus 1, right? 0 bar, 1 bar, 2 bar, and so on, n minus 1 bar. So if you are like, by default, if you are going to delete every row and columns of this matrix, we'll have an empty matrix. So for convention, we'll consider that when all the elements of the given matrix is considered, I mean, all the number of rows are considered here, this matrix theta of L of P of Zn is going to be just equal to 1, just for convention's sake. Okay, and that leads us to the fact that if we choose n as a prime number, then the Laplacian spectrum of P of Zn will be nothing but only this part will be contributed only from here, this coefficient part of the expression. So which would tell us that we'll have only 0 or n as eigenvalues with the multiplicities 0 with multiplicity 1 or n with multiplicity n minus 1 here. Okay, so it's a direct corollary from this result. Once we could catch hold of this characteristic polynomial of the reduced matrix, then we can easily talk about the eigenvalues of the whole matrix itself. So that is the idea behind this theorem here. Okay, so what about other elements? What can we say about, I mean, this we have said for prime. In fact, this will also be true for prime powers also. We'll just skip that part now. Okay, so for each non-prime positive integer n, if you see, the multiplicity of n as a Laplacian eigenvalue will be at least phi n plus 1 times. Okay, again it is from here, right? From here you can see that n will be a repeating with n has a multiplicity of at least phi n plus 1 elements when n is a non-prime positive integer. Okay. So these are direct corollaries. So when you now restrict your structure of n itself, the value of n, if it is of this particular form, say if n is of the form p1, p2, then what can we say about the corresponding Laplacian spectrum of this p of Zn? Okay. So it is going to be given by this value, this spectrum here, where 0 is of multiplicity 1, and the eigenvalue phi n plus 1 will be another eigenvalue. Similarly, n minus p1 plus 1 or n minus, it's p2 actually. So n minus p2 plus 1 is another eigenvalue, and n will be another eigenvalue. So as you can see here, their corresponding multiplicities are also given in the second row of this matrix. Right? So if we have two distinct primes p1 and p2, there are also results. So when we talk about Laplacian spectrum, we all know that it also gives us a very nice property of, talks about connectivity also. So the algebraic connectivity is nothing but the second smallest eigenvalue, right? Other than 0, whatever we have here. So since this is going to be connected for us, the corresponding power graph is connected. We know that 0 will be of multiplicity 1. And the second smallest eigenvalue, if in this case, will be nothing but phi of p1, p2, that is phi of n plus 1, right? So this is going to be true for z of p1, p2, right? So algebraic connectivity also leads to the vertex connectivity. There are more results here in this direction, where we can talk about when the algebraic connectivity of a particular power graph equals the vertex connectivity itself. Right? Or is it different, or is there any conditions on depending on the groups? So there are ample results in this direction, and in this paper, in this particular paper of Chattopadhyay and Panigrahi, they have themselves proved lots of results connecting different values. I just gave a simple example for n equal to p1, p2. You can also talk about when n is a product of more than 2 primes, or when you have a particular specific form of p1 alpha power alpha 1, p2 power alpha 2, and so on. So with that in mind, we'll just move to the next property or next group, Okay, other than Zn, next we will want to talk about dihedral group, the next simplest group that we always try to focus on. So for each non-prime positive integer n, the Laplacian eigenvalues of the power graph of dihedral group can be given in terms of power graph of the corresponding Zn, the cyclic group. Okay, and it is given by this formula. In fact, the explicit eigenvalues are given here. Lambda i's denote the eigenvalues lambda I of this expression on the left, right? And on the right, we have the specific values where lambda 1 is going to be 2 times n, and from lambda 2 to lambda phi n plus 1. So n occurs with this many repetitions. So phi n plus 1 times there is a repetition of n, right? And then it will be the remaining values of p of zn for phi of n plus 2 to n minus 1, and it is equal to 1 with multiplicity n again, and 0 for I is equal to 2n, or the last one, the least value is 0 here. So we can see that the characterization, like you can also connect the values of from one group to the other group through their characteristic polynomials here. Okay. So for simple case, if you see n is a prime power, then the Laplacian eigenvalues of p of zn, as I told before, it's 0 and n with multiplicities 1 and n minus 1, right? So putting it over here, plugging it here, we will see that the Laplacian eigenvalues of p of d2n will be nothing but 0 and 1 and n, right, and 2n. Right, so from here you can see 0 is going to be there for ones, right, and 1 will be repeating n times. So, and n is going to be repeating n minus 2 times here, right, and 2n will be an eigenvalue, will also be one eigenvalue here. Okay. So these are some more properties that we could see. So from here you can see that the algebraic connectivity of p of d2n, in this case it is going to be equal to 1. Okay, whatever it is for d2n, the algebraic connectivity is 1 for any positive integer n. If we take p of d2n will have algebraic connectivity 1. So what about product of two distinct primes again? When I take n as a prime power, we've been talking about this result. So again, when n is a product of two primes, say p1 and p2, okay, so where p1 and p2 are distinct primes, then the corresponding Laplacian spectrum will be given by this expression over here, right? So as if you just recall from the previous thing, we have already stated the Laplacian spectrum of p of zn when n is a product of primes, two distinct primes, right? So now from this value, we can just plug these into the expression over here, and you can see that the corresponding Laplacian spectrum of p of d2n is given by this expression over here. Okay. So where the first row represents the eigenvalues and the second row here represents the corresponding multiplicities. So we have talked about adjacency spectrum. As you can recall, these results came in 2015 to 17 period. So, and in fact, adjacency spectrum was started, or was the first paper was published in 2017 about the adjacency spectrum. So to talk about adjacency spectrum, again, we have to go through the characteristic polynomials, write down the expression and pick it up. So to do that, if you look at this reduced matrix T, okay, T is going to be, we have the adjacency matrix of power graph. Now, if you look at this T matrix, where this T matrix is going to contain T plus 1 rows by T plus 1 columns, okay, where each of the elements in this matrix are given by these elements, the Euler phi functions of the divisors of n, phi of n, phi of d1, phi of d2, and so on. And in the second row, if you see, we have phi of alpha of d1, d2. That means it is nothing but alpha of d1, d2 will be nothing but phi of d2 if if d1 divides d2 or d2 divides d1. Either way, okay, it will be phi of d2. Otherwise, if it does not divide, then if either d1 does not divide d2 or d2 does not divide d1, then it would be 0. Okay. So with this definition, we can see that the characteristic polynomials of power graph of Zn was given, and it was given by this expression. Okay, so where a plus 1 into n minus t minus 1 to the power of n minus t minus 1 into the characteristic polynomial of this particular matrix T. Okay, so this is for Zn. Okay, so this was proved by Mehranian in 2017. Similarly, if you look at the proper power graph of Zn, then it is nothing but we are deleting the identity element, right? So in the corresponding T matrix, the change will be nothing but nowhere else except the first column. So the T prime matrix is going to be the same as T matrix except the first column, where in the first column, if you see here, we have phi of n plus 1, phi of n plus 1, and so on. So in this, we just reduce by 1. The whole column will be reduced by 1. So the T prime matrix will have phi of n minus 1, phi of n, phi of n, phi of n, and so on. Okay. So the corresponding P naught for the proper power graph, Zn, the characteristic polynomial, is again given by this expression over here. So again, if we want to talk about dihedral group, okay, so consider D2N, the proper power graph and the power graph of D2N. Okay, this can be again computed directly, and the characteristic polynomial is given by this expression over here for P and P naught. Okay, so from here we can immediately declare or find out the expression or the eigenvalues directly from these expressions. Okay, so like you can see that 0 is an eigenvalue with multiplicity n minus 1 for the power graph of D2n, right? Similarly, minus 1 is an eigenvalue with multiplicity n minus 2, and we have a cubic expression over here, cubic expression in A. So if we solve for this cubic expression, the roots of this cubic polynomial will be the 3 other eigenvalues of this phi. Okay. So similarly, for proper graph, you can see 0, minus 1, and n minus 2 with multiplicity 1 will be the eigenvalues here. So these expressions can be given from the this has been proved already. So now, keeping this in mind, we can also talk about spectral radius. So spectral radius of the power graphs can also be given. So since we have been talking about dihedral group, you can see the dihedral group spectral radius can be bound using the spectral radius of the cyclic group. So similarly, there are other results also for elementary abelian group, which we introduced already. So for that structure also, the corresponding characteristic polynomial has been found out, and the eigenvalues are also being calculated directly. So these are just existing results from 2017. So now let us move to our interest. So next 10 minutes I will take to cover the topic that I wanted to do for today, mainly like the superpower graph. Okay, so we've been talking about power graphs, proper power graphs. So what is the superpower graph? So it was actually introduced or called as order supergraph of a group G. So just to reduce everything, we call it, or we name it as our superpower graph, and we'll be again worrying about the undirected version of it. So what is the superpower graph? It is nothing but given a group G, you take the vertex set as the elements of the group, and any two elements are going to be now adjacent if and only if either order of A divides order of B or order of B divides order of A. So in the previous case power graph, what we were talking about if one element can be written as a power of the other element. But here what we are talking about is if you look at the corresponding order of the element, and those orders should be divisible. I mean, if one should be dividing the other. Okay. So with that as a condition, if we this was proposed by Hamze and Ashrafi. Okay, this was proposed in 2013, I guess. So with this notation, we see that the power graph and superpower graphs are identical for the finite cyclic group. Okay, because for superpower graph is also going to be a complete graph, and we have already seen power graph is also complete for finite cyclic group. So in that case, sense, P of G and S of G here, they are going to be equal if and only if G is a finite cyclic group. Okay, so this and having a complete graph is not of any bigger help for us. So we'll not worry about this finite cyclic group. So all our considerations will be on other collection of groups. Okay. So what about S of G is complete if and only if n is equal to p power k. So this is again the another result which I had put it beforehand. Okay. So if you look at this super graph, okay, so given a group G, okay, and if you know that for some prime power, it divides order of G. Okay, so then we can see that our super power graph will contain a complete graph on those p power alpha elements, okay, which will divide order of G, okay, as an induced subgraph. So we have a kind of, now in super power graph, we have cliques. So all the blocks are going to be cliques for us, and they are connected in some fashion. Okay. So once we come to cliques, we'll talk about quotient graphs. Quotient graphs are defined using the relation, or by defining an equivalence relation and a partition on that. Okay. So the quotient graph is, we just collect all those elements in our purpose. For our purpose, if you see for super power graph, we'll consider all those cliques and we'll pick up one representative elements in that. Okay. So and we will try to define a quotient graph over here, where for any two elements from the partition, they are going to be adjacent if we can find some respective elements in the partition which are already adjacent in the original graph gamma. Okay, so with this, I mean, of course, as we have been trying to see or find out, I mean, we are trying to solve this part here, where we can try to find out what will be the structure of a superpower graph, right? So to see that, we want to talk about decomposing the graph into equivalence classes. So in general, it is not immediate when for every group. So unless we know the structure of a group, so finding the size or the number of equivalence classes in any arbitrary group is not that immediate. Okay, so to begin with, let us say start with the dihedral group D2n of order 2n. Okay, and its corresponding superpower graph. Okay, so first of all, how will the D2n superpower graph will look like in our structure? Excuse me. So to do this, what are the possible equivalence classes in our dihedral group? So our dihedral group will contain an equivalence class of the form, will denoted by A1 here, which is going to be the collection of all powers of i's. Okay, where I is nothing but the co-primes of n. Okay, if you look at all the co-prime elements I of n, then you look at the powers of A in that. Okay. Similarly, if you look at the equivalence class B, which will be nothing but just the union of elements of the form A power I B. Okay. So A into B, A square, A power 2 into B, and so on. And this A power n by 2 is one special class. When n is even, we will talk about this. If n is odd, we will not have this class. So we'll only talk about the equivalence class B here. Okay. So A power n by 2, the equivalence class contains this class B along with the element A power n by 2. Okay. So that is again an order 2 element. And A power n is nothing but our identity element. So identity element will form an equivalence class of its own. Okay. So for every non-trivial divisor of n, we can see that this equivalence class A power n by d is also going to be there. Okay. So where it is nothing but A power id, where our A power I was coming from this first equivalence class A1. Okay. So now, with this in mind, let us consider the partition of our vertex set, or D2n, which is nothing but the collection of equivalence classes of the form A power j, where j is a divisor of n. Okay, whatever divisors we have, we'll pick up from there, and we'll try to represent this. Okay. So if you see the corresponding, after partitioning, we'll see that each of this partition, okay, will form a clique in our superpower graph. Okay, each partition in this P set will form a clique for us. Okay, so say for example, let D1, D2, Dm be positive divisors of n, and suppose di is not equal to 2. Okay, so we have all these are odd divisors. Then if n is odd, then we can say that s of d to n is going to be equal to nothing but the join of the graph, where here I represent this d to nq as nothing but the quotient graph of this d to n. Okay, just the order elements. So any two elements in this delta graph is going to be of the form A divides B or B divides A. In that sense, we will talk about the elements here. And if you look at it, this will be the join of, again, the divisors here, Kn, complete graphs, Kn, K phi of D1 and so on, until phi of Dm. Okay. So if n is even, what happens is we'll have one more element from this A partition A n by 2, so which will again form a complete graph here, because along with the identity, all the elements of order 2 will also be into this one, into this complete set Kn. So we'll have, for when n is even, we'll have this kind of a join graph for us. Okay, where join of all the clicks will be there. So what can we say about the vertex connectivity of such a graph, superpower graph of D to N? Okay. So again, to talk about the vertex connectivity, we start from representing the, finding out the minimal separating sets. Okay. So if you look at the minimal separating set, how will the structure be looking like? What will be my separating set be, or how will it be looking like? So if you take any element, either the whole of the equivalence class is going to be there in this separating set, or none of the elements from that particular equivalence class will be there. Okay, if one element is there, then all the elements from that corresponding equivalence class will also be a part of minimal separating set. So this we have proved this part, and following this, if we start counting the elements in the minimal separating set and identifying the minimum one in that, then we can see that the vertex connectivity of SD to N will be equal to 1 if and only if N is an odd integer. Okay, and we also have the specific case where N is not a power of 2. Okay, so for all other cases, because we don't want this particular case here, as it's a very simple trivial case for us. So S of D to N is going to be equal to 1 if and only if N is an odd integer, and for every even integer N, the connectivity is given by 1 plus phi of n plus the connectivity of the superpower graph of those order subgroup where you delete all the order 2 elements from that. Okay, so D to N bar here is nothing but the order 2 elements. You delete those order 2 elements and then form a super graph of it, and the corresponding connectivity of that super graph will be this K of S of D to N bar. Okay, so consequently, what we are trying to say is that when n is any even integer, then the connectivity of this super graph is going to be nothing but at least phi n plus 1. Okay, phi of n plus 1. If suppose T dagger is our minimum vertex separating set, okay, among the minimal sets, if you pick up the minimum separating set, then the equivalence class B cannot be a part of this separating set. Okay. So that means what we are trying to say, that in any minimum separating set, we cannot have the order 2 elements from the group. Okay. So this also leads to the next characterization, where the connectivity of SD to N is equal to phi of N plus 1 if and only if N is of the form 2 times P. Okay, that is 2 into P, where P is any odd prime. Okay. So in continuation of this, we also prove that if N is of the form 2 times of P1 into P2, okay, where P1 and P2 are 2 odd primes, then connectivity of SD to N is given by phi of N plus phi of Pn plus phi of P2 plus 1. So if we extend this, if suppose N is of the form 2 times of P1 into P2 into Pm, okay, then for any m odd primes that we are going to consider, then the corresponding minimal separating set has 2 possibilities. So one is this particular set A square. Okay, the equivalence class A square, if this equivalence class belongs to my minimal separating set, Okay, then the number of elements in this set will be at least n by 2. Okay, also this bound is tight. Okay, if there is a minimal separating set which will contain this a square, okay, the equivalence class a power 2, and that class contains the number of elements will be equal to, I mean, the minimal separating set containing this class will be having exactly n by 2 elements. Okay, and if suppose in the same thing, if suppose we make a separate another case where this a power 2 is contained in Ti, okay, that is if there are minimal separating sets, say Ti for SD2n, such that a power 2 is contained in this Ti, then if we count the number of elements in Ti, it will be equal to this expression given by this summation over phi of d plus 2 times of phi of n. And hence, if you see from here, the minimal value will be nothing but when I is equal to m. Okay, when we consider this m here, okay, pm, the same primes m that we are representing here. So there will be m minimal separating set, and the connectivity will be given by as an upper bound using this tm. Okay, so where connectivity of s of d to n is less than or equal to tm here. It's the number of elements in tm. Okay. So with this, there are many more results again based on connectivity, where when we have n as a special forms, special cases like p1 power alpha 1, p2 power alpha 2, and so on. So we will also we have also extended that. There are more results on critically vertex connectedness. Okay, by critically vertex connectedness, what we mean is if we delete any vertex from the graph, right, from the super graph, what can we say about the vertex connectedness? Right, like we talk about proper power graph, here also we want to talk about what will happen if we delete any vertex, right? So there are many results that we have proved again here. So for any critically vertex connected graphs S of G, connectivity is at least, it has to be 1, because if vertex connectivity is equal to 1, that means that identity is the only cut vertex in the graph. Okay, so it cannot be critically vertex connected. So therefore, we can see that connectivity has to be at least 1. And particularly if you see S of D to N, it is critically vertex connected if and only if N is of the form 2 power K, okay, when N is powers of 2. Okay. So there are also other distance properties. So we have also proved some results on Hamiltonicity, one Hamilton, pancyclicity, pan connectedness, Hamiltonian connectedness, and so on. So if not Hamiltonian, then when can we talk about being Hamiltonian connected, and it contain, whether does it contain a Hamiltonian path, and what about Eulerianness, and what about edge connectivity? So these are all some of the results that we have already worked out, and some results are provable and we have proved it, and some more, there are lots of open questions in this area. So for those who are interested in open problems, let us look at some couple of conjectures here which were posed in 2015, and it is still open. So if interested people can try to work here. So there exists a real number k such that diameter of the proper power graph is at most k for all finite groups. Okay, so if you look at finite group G, and which has a connected proper power graph, then there exists some real number k for which diameter of this is at most k. Okay, and what about algebraic connectivity of the power graph of Zn? Is it an integer? And what about the Laplacian integral? I mean, is power graph of Zn Laplacian integral? And what can we say about if n is a prime power or product of two primes for in these cases? All these questions are all kind of open, and there are many more questions in this area. So for people who are interested, you can look into the survey which is going to come up sooner, I guess. So which is under review. We have posed all the questions there. Okay. So to conclude, what we wanted to do was we want to understand the connection between a group and its power graph, right? And ultimately, we hope to find some combinatorial conditions on power graph which correspond to interesting group properties and vice versa. Right. So many works they start from strong graph theoretic conditions and they then find out special groups which satisfy those conditions. So that's what we have tried to see so far. Okay, so we hope still can we gain more insight into these kind of problems, and can we characterize or solve problems which for specific groups such as solvable groups or simple groups with other combinatorial properties for their corresponding power graphs. Okay, so these are the references that I was talking about. So if you see, all the papers that we have referred to are recently relevant from 2013 onwards.